I always say that I love wine is not a business plan. And so many people think they want to, well, especially for retail, because I think it just seems a little bit more manageable than a restaurant. People at least seem to understand that there are a lot of moving parts in a restaurant. But in a retail shop, you'll walk in and, oh, there's the same little shop owner that I see all the time. How hard can it be? And it's like, well, do you like retail? Because if you don't like retail, you're not going to like running a wine shop, owning a wine shop.
100%. Yeah.
And just digging into those numbers. What does it cost to pay people? Like, what is the hourly? And make sure you understand you're grossing it up and all the things that come along with that. And if you think you're going to open this shop and then pay somebody to be there full time, well, boom, there goes your profit. So looking at all these fun things.
Ciao, y'all. I'm Jessica Dupuy, guest host for a special TEXSOM series on the Italian Wine Podcast, covering the 2025 TEXSOM Conference in Dallas, Texas. Join me in the heart of the Lone Star State as we dive into conversations with key speakers and attendees, exploring career paths, challenges, and the latest trends shaping the wine industry today. This series is proudly sponsored by the Texas Department of Agriculture's Uncork Texas Wines program, which celebrates Texas wine culture by promoting local wineries and grape growers, both in-state and around the world, building a vibrant community around the Texas-made wine. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show wherever you get your podcasts. And don't miss our Texas wine tidbit in every episode, a fun little fact, insight, or story that highlights the people and places behind this exciting wine scene. All right. Well, Christy Frank, I am so glad to get to sit down again with you this year for the TEXSOM series on Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for joining me.
You're excited to be here.
I wonder if you could, for people that listened last year or can go listen again to that series from last year, you can kind of catch up on the things that Christy and I talked about. But for those that are new, could you maybe kind of give us a background? Who are you? Tell me about kind of your work in the wine world, because it's kind of multi-layered and I think interesting in every one of those layers.
Yeah, I need to get better at answering that question because I was like, what to say? And I mean, I could talk 20 minutes just about that, but I've been in the industry officially full time since 2000. So that is more years than I'd like to count. And even before that, I had my first job was a part-time retail job in Boston, in between the corporate job and my apartment. So retail, I guess I think of myself sort of first and foremost, retail is sort of where my heart is. And I had a shop in Manhattan called Frankly Wines, which is still there. I don't own it anymore, but it is doing just fine under Liz, who's the new owner. And I have a shop up in the Hudson Valley. Technically, my husband has a shop because of rules, but it's called Copake Wineworks. And that shop is about 10 years old, which is awesome because when we first opened it, I didn't want to shop for 10 years. And now 10 years later, here we have it. So just the way licensing works, it was kind of then or never. In addition to that, I have worked for Moet Hennessy, which initially started when it was Shefflin and Somerset. So I have this sort of big brand experience as well as with the big distributors, and which is something very, very different, completely different from the way that the New York world works. So I've kind of got this, in a way, unique experience in terms of national big brands as well as the weirdness that is New York. And I work the occasional shift at Chambers, which is Pascaline Lepeltier's restaurant. I'm her blind tasting coach. I teach WSET classes at the International Wine Center, and I do tutoring. I am starting to do more consulting and advisory work at the very, very beginning of the process for people who are thinking of opening a wine shop or thinking of starting a spirits brand. And probably the last thing that I should mention is that I do have a canned cocktail called Hamlet Hound, which new to the world, started that from scratch about 2-3 years ago, kind of just to see if I could put into practice all these consulting things that I'm always telling people to do. And it's doing very well for being the last thing that I mentioned during that very long speech about what I do. So reorders are great. It's a lot of fun. So yeah.
That's great. And I mean, it is, talk about being diversified. You've done it. I love it. Well, and so a lot of ways that this could have happened, but kind of tell me how your journey led you to TEXSOM. How long have you been involved? I mean, I know it's where I met you.
That would be math that I actually haven't done. I met James at a trip to Chateau Moussard to Lebanon, which was probably at least 10 years ago, if not more than 10 years ago. And after that, I came to TEXSOM, part of the summer camp between the conference and the wine awards. I had been to the wine awards quite a few years before I finally made it to the conference. And so through that, I just love to go to Texas once or twice a year. And now they can't keep me away.
Did you ever think in your life that you would say that? Like, I love to go to Texas 2 times a year.
I'm from Ohio, so going to Texas is not, beyond the realm of possibility.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Well, this year you are doing a seminar at TEXSOM with June Rodil,
Mm-hmm.
and that one is called Metrics for Success On-Premise, Off-Premise, and in Life. So I'll just have to chunk the life part on there and make it like a really big topic. But I wonder if you could kind of break that down. Like what's kind of the idea behind that, and what are things that you guys are hoping attendees will take away from the session?
Well, this will be the second panel that I've done with June. And the first one was either 2 or 3 years ago. And it was basically kind of called Follow the Money, Show Me the Money. Yeah. And it was based on the idea of let's actually pull out our spreadsheets and let's get into the nitty gritty of what it takes to open, in my case, a small wine store, and in her case, a restaurant. And it was very well received because nobody pulls out spreadsheets at these sort of things, but we were like, let's do it. Let's show, I had this great little slide that had an iceberg, and it showed the tip of the iceberg, which was like a cute little wine store. And then underneath it was all of the other things that are built into it. Do you get your health insurance from your spouse? Did you start with a large fortune? Do you own the building? This, that, and the other thing, like all these things that people don't necessarily think of when they see this cute little wine store. And June brought almost the total opposite perspective because she has partners and it's a restaurant group. So it was just this really deep dive into the kinds of things you need to think about. And this is to sort of continue that, but like looking at the business from an ongoing basis. So what are the numbers that you need to be looking at to run your business, to track, to see how it's going, to be like, are you measuring success and sustainability, and what are those numbers? And then the and life part was kind of just tacked on at the end, where we were like, well, we should probably talk about that as well, because TEXSOM always tends to go beyond just the product, beyond just the wine, and sort of look at things more holistically. So I'm actually looking forward to thinking about what those numbers are, because I know my business numbers. I don't really know my life numbers. Glasses of water that I drink, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, as we age, water's big. Apparently protein's a really big deal, things like that. Counting all of that is important, right?
Yeah. How many reps am I doing?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
These steps. But I think that's really great because, and this is why I love talking to like both you and June, is just this kind of, we get all, and rightfully so. It's like, I just actually literally watched Moneyball last night, that movie with Brad Pitt about baseball. Mm-hmm. And like, I happen to love baseball, but if you don't love baseball, it's such a great story. And I love it. They say like, it's hard not to get romantic about baseball. And we're in a similar industry, right? Like it's hard not to get romantic about wine. But when it comes to success, these are the little nuts and bolts that matter most.
Yes.
It's the stuff that if you don't think about it, it doesn't matter how much you know or how much you love wine. It's not going to work.
Yes. I always say that I love wine is not a business plan. And so many people think they want to, well, especially for retail, because I think it just seems a little bit more manageable than a restaurant. People at least seem to understand that there are a lot of moving parts in a restaurant. But in a retail shop, you'll walk in and, oh, there's the same little shop owner that I see all the time. How hard can it be? And it's like, well, do you like retail? Because if you don't like retail, you're not going to like running a wine shop, owning a wine 100%. Shop. Yeah. And just digging into those numbers. What does it cost to pay people? Like, what is the hourly? And make sure you understand you're grossing it up and all the things that come along with that. And if you think you're going to open the shop and then pay somebody to be there full time, well, boom, there goes your profit. So looking at all these fun things.
I love it. Well, I look forward to that. And I guess kind of what do you hope people take away? I mean, is there this like aha, or is it just that like, I mean, I love that you say like, I love wine is not a business plan, or, kind of what are your.
Yeah, the last one that we did, I've actually had people still come up to me and say, because we sent all the spreadsheets out afterwards, I mean, redacted and things, but we basically sent like the spreadsheets. And I know people who have shops now who said this was just, it was invaluable. I knew what I was getting into, but at that point where they were, to be able to have this sort of foundation and how to think about it, they're like, it was just invaluable. So hopefully for people who are thinking about doing it, they'll have a better understanding of what they're getting into. And for people that are already in the trenches, it will either hopefully show them, oh, I do know what I'm doing, I can just fine tune a few things, or it will help them sort of maybe put the ship right if they feel the ship is sort of sinking.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think that, I mean, personally for me, like I'll actually be doing one on the publishing of books, whether you're going like traditional, conventional publishing through a publisher or trying to self-publish, which is a whole different ballgame.
Oh, yeah.
And you've inspired me. I think I definitely will bring spreadsheets because there is a lot to consider, and how much control you're willing to give up versus how much control you want to maintain, and all of these things.
Yeah. And looking at the numbers, one of the other things I do that I forgot to mention is I do some writing myself, and I do some publishing and editing work for Alice Firing in her newsletter. Yeah. And I would like to also write some of my own books. And I follow a lot of these indie publishing podcasts, and just this idea of, well, how much do you make per book if you're going through a publisher, and how much do you make if you're selling it yourself, and what are the costs involved with this? And this is going back to the panel, the first panel, and what we're also going to talk about is being really, really true with yourself about what you want. And it's true for being in this business, and it's true for writing. It's especially for writing. Like if you want to say, I published a book with so-and-so, that's one thing. And if that is really, really important to you, then that is a much different scenario than I want to write a book and make some money on it. Like there's different ways to do it. And what do you really, really want to do? And then what's important to you? And then how do you structure it based on what you need and what you want?
Yeah.
With your eyes wide open.
Eyes wide open. There you go. Well, so let's shift a little bit from that particular topic, because I also feel like your perspective is really insightful for some of the things that are currently going on in the industry. So, you're in the front lines of independent wine retail. What are some of the trends or shifts that you've noticed within the past year? Are there changes in customer behavior, buying patterns, expectations that are shaping the way you do business? And we'll talk about the big T next, but
we'll go on to the T after this. Well, see, it's interesting because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I follow and I read a lot of research reports. I understand that my anecdotal evidence is not statistical evidence, and that the numbers that are out there are different than what I see day to day. I mean, I think it is when you look at the numbers, the sales numbers and just that sort of thing for the industry overall, it's not good. It's pretty clear that the number of wineries that exist, the vineyards that are planted globally, it's just not really sustainable. Mm. But as a shop owner selling to a very specific customer, things are tricky in the sense that where we are located are part of our customer base, which is very rural. They're hit hard by the economy. So they're drinking less, drinking smaller sizes. And in one way, I'm like, that's not the worst thing, because if you're coming in at 11 o'clock to get like that, that's okay. I can lose that business. I'm not going to try to get people to drink more when their economic situation is not good. But I have young kids who one just turned 21. I know what they're drinking. They're drinking fairly sophisticated in terms of their cocktails. They're drinking interesting wines. They're not drinking, but they're doing it in a way that is different than what the current industry might like them to drink. So I do not see this progression to they're not going to wind up in the land of Napa Valley Cabernet. They're not going to wind up necessarily in the world of memorizing the villages of Burgundy, but they're interested in wine. So me as a retailer, I'm able to easily, like I've always said, I could sell that shop and completely reset it in the course of 3 months if I really needed to. So I've been adjusting over time, and things that seemed rare and wild. And what are these? Like people, orange wine, the number of people that come in and ask for orange wine and expect it to be there at all different prices and know what it is and expect different styles, that come in year round asking for rosé. And when I point out all of the lovely colors from light to dark, they don't flip out and say, oh, well, I don't want that one. It's going to be sweet. So partly that's the customer base and the community that I have tried to cultivate. And I think what is increasingly important for each individual business, and again, this doesn't necessarily help the industry overall, but as an individual business owner or as an individual winery, being really, really clear as to who your customer is and what you want to do and what you want to sell and who you're selling it to and where does that meet and what can you do and what are the financials of it. Like that's, you can still have thriving businesses within, well, I wouldn't say we're thriving. It's tough just because of many reasons, but you can still have a business that is sustainable where you're doing things that you love and selling to the people that you want to sell to. Focusing on, like, it's all about trying to build this community, whatever that means.
Right. I want to be clear just for everyone who's listening. So number one, you're telling me that young people are drinking, like 21-year-olds are drinking?
Yes. Yes.
I just want to say that because all of a sudden people are like running around scared that they're not. And it's funny, I was speaking with Danielle Caligari, who's a professor, right? But then also a writer about wine. And she's like, let me tell you something. I have many classes in which I know my students are drinking. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I want to go to the second point
Yeah.
that you said, which is that it's what are they drinking and that there's a level of sophistication about the way that they're doing it. Do you have any insight there?
Well, in terms of all the numbers and all the everything out there and all the studies and things, there's we have to mention another podcast, the Drinks Insider podcast. No, the Question of Drinks, that podcast, they've consolidated a lot of this information and go through it, and you can pretty much make your call as to where you think it's going to go based on your own anecdotal information and where you are in the industry. And there was a Rabobank report, which is the one that I am sort of clinging to because it is very true with what I see with my own kids. They don't care about health so much. They just kind of understand. They're like, I'm living my life online and I don't really want to be caught drinking in an Instagram photo until, they get that sort of stuff. But once they start to turn 21 and once they're out from underneath the parents and they're of legal drinking age, they start to very quickly catch up in terms of the amounts that they're drinking. But they are like mine, they'll have a party where it's an angels and devils party and they have different cocktails in each of the rooms, like cocktails that they're making.
Yeah.
So that wasn't what I was doing at 21.
But were you drinking Napa Valley, Cabernet either?
I wasn't drinking Napa Valley Cabernet at that point. I was drinking Behringer White Zinfandel or Southern Home White
Bartles and
Zinfandel.
James. No, I mean,
terrible cocktails involving sweet things and cement mixers and crappy beer. And I think they already would kind of in general rather drink better and a little less.
Yeah.
A little less.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I love it. And I just think that's important to kind of hold on to is we're going through some tough times, but it's almost, to sound like an economist, it's like, I feel like it's a correction, right? Like there's been a flooding of the market and it's time to kind of really, really think about what needs to be there and maybe what doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. And just looking at like, where does investment money come from? Where does the money come from to fund all of this stuff? And we just went through a cycle of really, really easy money, and it's not so easy anymore. So it starts to businesses that have perhaps started because it seemed like, oh, let's do this winery. This could be a cool thing. They're starting to either not make as much money as they thought they would make, or they're starting to actually lose more money than they want to deal with. And so it's just that part is cyclical. I do think. I remember I was in business school. I graduated in 2000 and we had these projects that we had to write. And we did a group project on, I think it was Mondavi at the time. I can't remember. And it was at the tail end of that cycle of doom and gloom, and everything was falling apart. And now we've crested and we're coming back down again. I mean,
Yeah.
that's 25 years. So
Yeah.
it's a generation.
Yeah. It is. But it's actually, but that to me, like makes the conversation manageable to be able to talk about it like this in such a way that like, yeah, we're on a constant pendulum and we're on,
Yeah. Yeah.
so don't everybody freak out yet. But so let's move on to the thing that is perhaps more, and I don't know about you, but for me as a journalist, it's really frustrating and difficult to be able to cover the topic of tariffs because it's like a yo-yo that's kind of, got ADHD. I don't know. It's like, it's just all over the place.
It has. I mean, and so it's this time around, it's fundamentally different than the last time around.
So talk about that. So last time around being sorry, but what is the last time?
So the last time around would have been in 2019, 2020. And these were very orderly tariffs. They were taking place under what's called Section 301, I believe, is the number, and it was what was called the carousel. So this goes all the way back to a dispute with the World Trade Organization based on Boeing and Airbus, and where you have these rules you follow where you're like, okay, we are going to levy we're going to capture this amount in terms of tariffs because of this thing that's happening. And we will announce what those tariffs will be. We will publish the schedule, and then we will have like 90 days to talk about it. And then at the end of it, we will make the final decision and we will publish the actual schedule. It will kick into place, and then it will happen for like either 180 days. I've forgotten what the numbers are. But then 180 days later, whatever the magic number is, we will revisit the schedule and we will publish the new schedule, and we will have 90 days to get comments on it. And then we will, and I'm like getting over here and over here and over here, closer to the wall. But it's this carousel that goes round and round. The first round rotation, the wine industry was completely caught off guard. So the tariffs were put on. But once we understood, and I think it was a 25% tariff on certain products from certain countries, very quickly we understood this is the process. And because it was this process, everybody knew what needed to be done. And the lobbying organization was formed, and there would be regular actions where everybody would submit comments to this system where you would submit your comments. And the first time we did it, we broke it. So the second time around, they had to come up with a new process, and we broke that. And then for the third round, Biden had been elected and the tariffs were paused. They were not removed, they were paused for a long period of time. But it was this orderly process, and people could figure out how to work with even a 25% tariff. The dollar was much stronger at that point than it is now. This time around, it's literally chaos. It's like, oh, we're announcing these tariffs based on this day, but they're going to go effect on this day. Nope, they're going to go in effect on this day. Oh, for some of these countries, they're going to go in effect on this day. Okay, wait, well, nope, we got goods on the water exception. So if you get them out by this day, then you don't have to pay anything. And then there's, okay, well, now we're going to pause them for 90 days. Now, oh, we've got deals. Oh, we don't have deals. Maybe we do have deals. We have carve out. There's all these little carve outs. And then at the same time, the exchange rate issue is almost more devastating than a 10% tariff, even a 20% tariff. If you're South Africa and you have a 30% tariff, that's a problem. I mean, it's all a problem, but there's just no stability, and kind of nobody knows what to do because there is no process. It's literally a yo-yo, and it's the whims of one person.
With that in mind, what are you doing? How are you living your days?
I mean, so for me, I am thankful that I'm not an importer because I, again, can find something to sell to my customers. Like I will be able to find something, although the prices are going up. And with that initial wave, a lot of people were able to sort of hold the line or do things in terms of like price structure where they might increase their frontline price, but they might leave the deeper deals. So it just forced everybody to perhaps, if I can't buy one case, maybe now I'm going to have to buy 2 cases or 3 cases, but we're talking about things that I sell quickly anyway. So it just becomes, from the standpoint of a retailer, a lot more checking the prices, a lot more making sure, oh, is this going to come in at what I thought it was going to come in? Do I have to go look for something else? If I'm raising the price on this, is there anything out there that I can substitute to hit that key price point? So it's just a lot more things and wines and price points that were pretty stable, and you just sort of ordered them, and that was easy, and you could focus on other sort of more boutiquey things. Now it's kind of back to basics and making sure that all of those basics are covered, or that you're not ordering something in and then getting screwed because the distributor raised the price and you forgot to look at it. So there's a lot of that. And the distributors and the importers, they're now, I mean, I think they were planning for this. So now we're starting to see prices increase pretty fast and furious.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing is like, I feel like the spring is where we kind of had, everyone's like, okay, maybe, you know, importers were trying to, if they could afford it, like to buy as much as they could. And then, so we had supply here, but that, you know, unless you're Wilson Daniels, like that supply is gone. Right.
Yeah. And there's only so many accounts that can manage to buy in. So there's only a handful of distributors and importers that are really going to have that cash flow to be able to buy in advance. And there's only so many accounts that are going to really be able to buy in advance. So, I mean, the good news is that there's a fair amount of product here. You just have to be really savvy with knowing who to call and what to look for, and working the price lists and all of that sort of thing. I mean, if you were somebody that was, you know, just kind of buying off of instinct or buying based on Instagram or buying what was easy, you're screwed, because you have to be a savvy operator to be able to make it work and to not get yourself in trouble, and to work with to try to work with your partners to understand what they're going through, to be able to kind of muddle along together. But there's no real end in sight. So that's what's kind of frustrating.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's, you know, like you said, I mean, prices are going to go up. That's one thing. But let's pause on South Africa for a second, because, you know, God knows I love the wines from South Africa. And so selfishly, I'm a little, you know, scared, because I'm not going to just go buy Saudi Family when it's 3% higher, because it's already like a really, you know, a premium wine. So what do you do as a retailer for that? I mean, I know you probably have some inventory as we speak, but like what happened? And I don't mean to, I'm not saying, what are you going to do about Saudi Family? I'm just saying more just like when you're faced with that, that's a really steep one compared to, okay, I think I can manage some of the 15% stuff that's happening with Europe. Like, what do you do when it's that high? Or what are your thoughts on?
I mean, in some cases, the importer's probably not going to bring the wine in. Like, it's going to be a conversation with the winery. What can you do in terms of dropping your price? What can we do in terms of dropping our margin? Do we think it's something that has enough demand that the price can go up? Like, maybe everybody does take a little bit of a hit along the way. Or maybe the winery says, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm going to go look for other markets. And once that wine goes to those other markets, it doesn't necessarily come back here. I don't know what the exchange rate, because we talk about the tariffs, that's the thing that hits the news, but the exchange rate fluctuation, it can make up for that tariff, or it can double or triple that tariff pretty quickly.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So that's a whole other piece of it that we have to look at. And I think one of the things that we might also be seeing is, I mean, we know at the distributor level, there's been so much consolidation, especially the big families. I mean, in California is a mess. But I think we had kind of gone through perhaps a period where you would see maybe a winery might work with one importer on the East Coast and maybe one importer on the West Coast. And those importers would then sell to the distributor network of smaller distributors throughout the country, especially as during COVID, you saw a lot of people leaving the urban, like they left New York, they left the big California towns, and they started to go to Ohio, to go to Carolinas, to wherever, and they started to open their own distributorship. But they knew the importers who were in the coast, so you started to see the product being pulled into the rest of the country. Correct. One way that you can potentially mitigate against these prices is if you are bringing it in direct to an importer distributor, so the margins can be compressed a little bit. instead of it coming into the New York importer who then sells it to the North Carolina distributor and everyone's taking their margin all the way along. Maybe because that New York importer can't sell as much of it anyway at that price, maybe now it starts to come in directly into New York, but there's also an importer in the Carolinas that start to bring it in. And if they're the importer and the distributor, they're working on a smaller margin. So I think we'll start to see more of that, which is the way it used to be probably about 15 years ago. Texas has a lot of importer distributors that bring things in and they're exclusive to that specific geography.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Well, okay. So I'm sure we could probably talk about this forever.
It's all logistics. Increasingly, it's all about logistics.
And a good spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even beyond a spreadsheet. I mean, at this point, it's got to be a serious model that you've got going. Okay, so beyond that, what are some challenges you're facing as a small retailer? Like, what are some ways that you have found that you've adapted or innovated to keep your business thriving? We've talked about young buyers. What about changing demographics, things like that?
I mean, the changing demographics that's going to be so specific to where the specific store is. And being up in the Hudson Valley Berkshires area, the demographics in some ways are in our favor. I mean, some of it is against us because rural areas are going to be hit hard, but some of it is in our favor because people are starting to migrate up from the cities, especially climate migration is starting to be a thing. Yeah. So we are seeing more people, new customers, increasingly new customers, and it's just kind of coming up with ways my challenge has been to get sort of a regular email schedule together, to find ways to continue to differentiate what I'm offering and what is my point of view and getting it out there to the customers in a way that makes sense, that's sustainable, especially knowing because we are in the middle of nowhere. Like I just started a wine club. So starting a wine club when you don't have customers that can readily come in and pick it up, how do you do that when you're going to be doing delivery to the city, when you're going to potentially be shipping to other places where you can ship? Like, how do you do email offers when people are going to bulk at the shipping rates? So it's constantly this over communicating, these ways to get people to consolidate their wines, consolidate your offer. Like, don't just buy 2 bottles and have us ship it to you. Buy 2 bottles, we'll hold it, add 2 more. And then eventually we have a case, we'll discount the whole thing and then we'll ship it to you. It's just constantly, it is a lot of logistics, but it's more logistics than demographics. It's to continuing to figure out how to get people to buy wine from me, from things that I want to sell them in a way that it is profitable for me while offering good value to them.
So let's just do this. What is it called? What's the wine club called?
It's called the Well-Edited Wine Club.
And can anyone buy from or join the club?
Anyone can buy from it and join the club as long as it's somewhere where we can ship. But it's got video tasting notes. So I'll post them to YouTube. They're little Ask Me Anything. So I schedule 2 or 3 Ask Me Anythings each month that people can drop into. And some people use it for tutoring, and some people use it for business questions, and some people just want to actually talk about wine. And then we ship out the wine every other month. So if you start this month, it's this month and next month, and then it ships out the beginning of the following month. If you start next month, it's next month and the following month, and it ships out the month after that. So you get into it, it just helps to keep shipping costs manageable. Yes. And then every time something goes out, if you add additional wine to it, there's no additional shipping. Okay. Always trying to get that ticket price up.
Yeah. Smart. Yeah. Clever. Yeah. I like it.
Spreadsheets. It's all spreadsheets.
It's all spreadsheets. I know. I think maybe TEXSOM needs to have, how they have like the day before TEXSOM starts or a couple of days leading up. It's like the education classes, like how to get certified and Sherry or whatever, which are all wonderful and great. But maybe we need like an Excel spreadsheet class.
Well, that is something when I talk about this advisory work that I'm doing is planning to put together a sort of like a 5-hour class that's focused on these are the economics that you need to think about if you're running a wine program. If you're thinking of doing a a retail shop, if you're thinking of doing an importing company, if you're thinking of starting a spirits brand, and like a little overview of this is what the 3-tier system is and you can't get around it, so you better understand it. So yeah, because I think we're in sort of a little bit of a lull period in terms of people being stupid with their money. But soon enough, it always changes. Yeah.
And we'll be ready.
And we'll be ready, and they will know, eyes wide open. Yeah.
So I guess let's bring this back to Italy. This is the Italian Wine Podcast after all. Maybe if you could just kind of say, what's your relationship with Italian wine? Like in the shop, in your own glass, like where are there regions or styles that are kind of ones that resonate with you?
I went to Italy. This is my great shame. I went to Italy for the first time last year. So
that's right. Abruzzo, right?
To the Abruzzo, yes. So finally, I can say I've been to Italy. It was an Ian DeGatta tasting several years ago. And Jeff Porter was running the thing, and it was all these New York buyers. And he says like, okay, so most of you guys, I mean, like these are all like top buyers, top of their game. And he's like, okay, so everybody here, you've all been to Italy. Who hasn't been to Italy? And like 2 people raised their hands, and I was one of them. And he looks at me and he was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, I just haven't, but I've been to Australia 5 times. So my relationship with Italy, especially in terms of the shop, is I think there are so many shops and people and importers and distributors that do it so well that I kind of pick and choose and just have like the classics, the kind of must-haves, and then I will go like into my weird little areas of love, like the strange grapes from the Piedmont that aren't Nebbiolo, or Sicily. Sicily is actually, customers would come in and, they'd ask for Barolo, they'd ask for Chianti or Tuscany. And now the third most common, or even the first or second most common they ask for is, do you have any Sicilian wine?
I love that. And not when they say that, are they thinking Etna or are they thinking beyond?
Some of them are thinking Etna. I would bet that most of them have the picture of Etna in their minds, but they're saying Sicily.
Okay.
And, White Lotus has done wonders for that. So
yes, well done, Planeta.
yeah. So, but they're thinking reds, they're thinking whites, they're even thinking of like sometimes the sweet wines. So yeah, Sicily is just with a bullet. It's entered the conversation.
I love that.
And Chirisuolo, like that's kind of one of my loves to sell it because it's so on brand. It looks so good in Instagram pictures. And it's delicious.
Right. And, texturally, it's just this lovely, quenchy wine.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. And I had no idea that you're seeing a blip. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So definitely Sicily is people coming in and asking for it.
That's great.
Even more than Chianti.
Let them duke that out. I don't want to get into all of that. Well, Christy, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me and talk about TEXSOM, tariffs, and Italian wine. I look forward to seeing you at TEXSOM and also sitting in on this class. I will bring my laptop and have a spreadsheet ready to go.
Awesome. And I hopefully can see your panel, but I don't know. I think I might have another panel at the same time.
I think you do. I hope they're not this way.
Dueling panels. Bummer.
This is the hard part about TEXSOM.
I know.
Getting to see everything. It's impossible.
Yeah. Well, we'll give each other. Well, if it is dual, then we'll do private tutorials.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
All right.
Thank you so much, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Here's a Texas wine tidbit that blends pioneering experiments with Italian spirit. Back in 1969, 2 Texas Tech University professors, Dr. Clinton Doc McPherson and Robert Reed, planted a 15-acre experimental vineyard, about 6 hectares, on the Llano Estacado, the vast high plains plateau in West Texas. Located about 1,200 meters above sea level, this elevated terrain offers hot, dry days and cool nights, perfect for ripening grapes while preserving acidity. The soils here are calcareous, iron-rich sandy clay loam, ideal for warm climate varieties. Doc McPherson decided to plant Sangiovese, making this vineyard the first to do so in Texas. Today, that same site, known as Sagamore Vineyard, is home to his flagship Sangiovese and is still producing fruit for top Texas wines. In July 2024, the Texas Historical Commission officially designated Sagamore Vineyard as a state historical place, recognizing its foundational role in building the modern Texas wine industry. Sangiovese thrives here. That sunny, elevated plateau with big temperature swings gives the grape excellent phenolic ripeness while maintaining structural balance. On the Llano Estacado, Sangiovese finds the perfect match in Texas soil, climate, and sunlight. But Sagamore wasn't just a vineyard. It was a living lab. The knowledge generated by McPherson and Reed helped establish the Texas High Plains AVA in 1993. That AVA now accounts for the majority of Texas grape production and continues to favor warm climate grapes like Sangiovese, Dolcetto, and Trebbiano. So if you ever come across a Texas Sangiovese, remember, it's more than a varietal. It's a bold experiment rooted in academic curiosity and a tough limestone-rich terroir. And with Sagamore recognized as a historic site, we're celebrating not just wine, but legacy. However you drink it, Sangiovese poured from the High Plains is an invitation to taste both Italian tradition and Texan innovation in a single sip. This series is proudly sponsored by the Texas Department of Agriculture's Uncork Texas Wines program, which celebrates Texas wine culture by promoting local wineries and grape growers, both in-state and around the world, building a vibrant community around the Texas-made wine. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show wherever you get your podcasts. And don't miss our Texas Wine Tidbit in every episode, a fun little fact, insight, or story that highlights the people and places behind this exciting wine scene.